In this video, we're going to talk about ethics in experimenting. So, when I first started teaching, I always started with this posed experiment. I want to know if cell phones cause cancer. That's what I'm interested in. Let's even be more specific. Do cell phones cause brain cancer? Okay. I don't know. Staring at the cell phone, having it up to your head, or texting it and having it close to your face. Does it cause brain cancer? That's what I'm interested in. All right. And so if I wanted to design an experiment with this, and I'm like, okay, so how about I get a group of people together and I'm like, I want you to use your cell phone 20 hours a day. I want it next to your head 20 hours a day. I'm going to tape it to your head for 20 hours a day and let's just see if you get cancer. That's a problem. We can't do that. Nobody's going to sign on for that study. So, if I'm really interested in trying to see if cell phones cause cancer, I'm going to have to find a different way to do it. Now, even though it's debatable, and this is not why I'm bringing it up, I'm not interested in the debate. I'm interested in saying it could be done on some sort of animal like a rat. Maybe you would tape the cell phone to a rat instead. Maybe it's just too unethical to bother finding, experimenting, and seeing. Maybe we just look at an observational study instead and maybe talk to people with brain cancer and find out how much they've been using their phone. But ethics are important, and it makes it important for us to protect people in an experiment. So we have these kind of regulations, and they're bullet pointed here. That's kind of important. So risks to participant must be minimized and reasonable with respect to projected benefits. So in other words, we want the risks to be as low as possible, but the benefit to be as high as possible. So often when people participate in trials for drugs, they're usually in a position that if the drug works, it's going to benefit and improve their life to the point that it's worth the risk, even if the risk can be pretty severe. Participants must be given informed consent. This means that the risks of the participation must be clearly explained to the subjects. Subjects must consent in writing to make sure that they have documentation. So it's really important that they're made aware and they sign it. And then last, data collected must be guarded carefully to protect their privacy. We don't want people walking around participating in studies and knowing, others knowing that they participate in it. That information needs to be kept private. Okay, so let's look at an example and it kind of helps us focus on some of the ethical impact of this kind of discussion. So, a researcher is collecting data in a community. So, let's find out what the problem is and see how we can maybe fix it. So, she selects a block where she feels comfortable walking because she knows many of the people living on the street. Wow. Okay. So, the fact that it's not random is a problem. So, she's not randomizing, which means the minute it isn't random, when we're talking about a sample, this means that there's bias. So, to fix this, she should really do some sort of sampling technique. Whenever they're talking about neighborhoods, I automatically think the cluster sample. A cluster sample would then allow her to randomly select a neighborhood and then survey everybody. So by this technique of picking her favorite neighborhood just because she knows people, her sample is biased, and she's trying to sell that her sample represents the population when it in fact does not represent the population. Okay. Okay, so let's look at the next one. No one seems to be at home at four houses on her route. She does not record the addresses and does not return at a later time. Wow. Okay. So she's intentionally omitting data. That's very bad. Okay. By throwing data out because it's not convenient, that's bias in an experiment. um, so what she's doing is, well, why were those people not home? Were they working? Is her study going to be something important about people who are working? And not including those people in her study, is that going to now make it so that her data is skewed because it's not looking at people who are working during those times of day? I mean, if she's showing up at like 4 p.m., maybe they don't get off till 7 p.m. And maybe they represent a group of people who have those types of jobs, and it's important to include them. So by intentionally omitting data, she is eliminating people from the population or the sample, okay, which is causing a sampling bias again. So, what she needs to do is try to go back and do it again. She needs to make every effort to get that data or report it and why she maybe couldn't. So at least people who are reading the study are aware that some people were not included in the data and why. Did they come at an inconvenient time? Does it really affect the study? Does the study need to worry about people who weren't there at that time of day? Okay, she skips 4 houses on a rope because she's running late for an appointment. When she gets home, she fills in the forms by selecting random answers from each residence. Oh my goodness, that's fake data. That's horrifying. And I have to say, it'd make me really sad for me to have to say that this is bad. This clearly doesn't represent the population. Even by trying to be random, that's worse. Maybe it shouldn't be random. Maybe the responses were all very consistent and we need to see that. So, yeah, faking your data is horrifying and is never okay in any situation.